He's going to be sucking his thumb. I'll be there beside him.
Yeah,
Okay, now we're live.
yes. So, hello everybody, and welcome to another insightful session with Line Credit. And I'm Rahima Wasti, your host for today, and we are having esteemed founder Mr. Philip Cutting joining us today. We are diving into a very critical topic that is mental health initiatives in a workplace. We'll discuss how companies can foster a supportive environment and implement effective mental health strategies. Thank you for joining us, Philip.
Thank you, Rahima. It's great. And I'm so excited to be here to talk about this important topic that is both easy to overlook and hard to balance. So I think it's fundamental to success in every organization. That's why I want to bring it up today. And I'm excited to share with you some of our strategies. And because I'm old, share some things that maybe have worked and maybe haven't worked so well, and share my kind of evolution on the concept.
Yeah, absolutely. That was great. Let's start with the basics, Philip. Why is creating a supportive work environment crucial for mental health?
Okay, so a supportive work environment is essential because it directly impacts the employee's well being, productivity, and how long they stay with your organization, which are all very important categories. When employees feel valued and supported, they're more engaged, they're more motivated, they're less likely to experience burnout, and they have higher energy and attentiveness to their work. So it's really, while some people say it's kind of like a huggy feeling thing, it is very, it's a capitalist approach to doing business, right? So we all love capitalism, right? So don't consider it a wasted expense. It's something that directly impacts the dollar and the long-term longevity of the value that you put into your employees and partnerships.
Right.
So that's why we're addressing it today. And for example, at Lion, we do regular checkups on our guys, right? And
Definitely.
we don't. Sometimes we may do more formal if we feel like something is really amiss, or sometimes what we'll do is we'll kind of use our relationships inside the company to get a feeling to privately interact and see how the person is doing, if we feel like we're starting to approach some kind of mental health issues. And we'll talk about ways to try to cut that off, and also what to do as you experience it, because sometimes, like they say on Batman, you're just one bad day away from crazy, right?
Yeah.
So it's something you can't let your guard down on, but with regular focus on it, with providing space for health, for a person to relax, a person to play and discharge negative energy, to recharge themselves, you're going to find that you're able to significantly enhance the productivity and reduce the stress in the environment.
Absolutely, that is completely correct. And speaking of support, can you explain what employee assistance programs, EAPs, are, are how and how they benefit employees?
Okay, so EAPs, employee assistance programs, are workplace programs designed to assist employees, managers, and I'd say even stakeholders in resolving personal issues that might affect their performance and well-being. And these programs offer confidential consulting, resources for financial assistance if need, stress
Okay.
management, health management, physical wellness, emotional and spiritual wellness programs. And they're all about providing a safety net for employees and those that you're working with. Sometimes we'll even extend these to our service providers, right? So if you have vendors that you have a very close relationship with, don't leave them out of the fun, right? Realize that if they're part of your supply chain, you should also have a little bit of love on them, right? It's easy to overlook, right? But if that value chain is important to you, right, and it's hard to replace, consider bringing those guys into your net, right? Just a
Exactly.
little hint there, and helping all these key players, employees, vendors, stakeholders, navigate through personal challenges while maintaining professional responsibilities is that work support balance that you need to have where work is getting done, but you're also caring for the people around you as a whole and building community.
That is absolutely correct. And we should definitely ensure that mental health resources such as counseling service and things like that, we should provide it to our employees. That sounds, though, incredibly beneficial what you just said. What role does mental health training for managers play in these initiatives?
Okay, so managers are often the first point of contact for employees who are experiencing stress or emotional health or family health issues. So training the supervisor or managers to recognize signs of stress, distress, and even panic are all parts of providing appropriate support. Now, it's not just the direct managers, right? They often get the blunt of it, or we expect them to be responsive, just because there's a certain amount of respect for them. There's privacy. They have to be accountable. They're used to that accountability, anyways. So it tends to start there, but it can also go in the opposite direction. It can be from people that are working below them, right? They're recognizing that maybe the person's getting a little sharp, or that they're not responding, or that they're a little bit late, or hey, it's a Wednesday and normally they have a lot more energy, but late, in the past couple of days I noticed they're down, right? They need not to fear that they're jumping over somebody or that they're going to embarrass somebody. Just know that it is part of the culture that we look out for each other, and goes back to being a community, right? Everybody is as important as the next, and everybody just has their roles, and working together is going to help you support each other.
Absolutely.
So I think
Yeah. Yes, please.
I think important in that is training, right? To provide the appropriate training to learn to recognize those issues, and to also just have that open, empathetic environment where you're listening also, and you're kind of not looking for problems, not kind of over pampering, but you really care about those around you, and you're looking to make sure that everybody is healthy.
That is absolutely correct, and I couldn't agree more to that. Let's talk about work-life balance initiatives. How can companies promote a healthy balance for their own employees?
I think work-life balance is great. It's important because if you expect your employees to work 18 hours a day, you really have to help them maintain that balance. I'm kidding, right? But when you do expect a good 8 or 6 or 10 hours, whatever that arrangement is, depend on the work relationship you have. There's some cases. Every kind of scheduling arrangement has its benefits and its weaknesses, right? So, for example, a lot of nurses I know, they work 12-hour shifts 3 or 4 days a week, right? And they because of the nature of the long shifts, they have a very different approach to how they monitor each other's health. Development shops can run like this too, especially if they're running based off of a project model where they're doing heavy sprints to get a lot of work done, right? And then they can take a break, whatever kind of break they need after that. But the challenge is not every key is going to fit every lock, right? So look at what the environment is, and plan your structures and the way you respond around those, because they'll have different challenges, right? This comes to flexibility, it comes to personal awareness, it comes to respecting people's abilities, their weaknesses, and their cycles in life, or especially for women, their cycles in the month, right? And I'm sorry I'm so blunt about it, but for guys, we have guys have cycles, but our cycles are like 1 hour cycles, right? Like, you can come to us and 15 minutes later, we're in a new stage of our chemistry. Women, they have these approximately month cycles, lunar cycles, right? I can say that I understand women as well as I understand the moon. Maybe less, probably a lot less. But you understand their cycles and the benefits that brings with it, right? So knowing where they are in those cycles is going to help you gauge the energy you can expect out of them, the support you have to provide, right? Look at these natural rhythms and get to know the people around you so that you can help them. And it's weird to if when you look at it that at that level for some people, but the professional manager, the real professionals that are looking to maximize what they can with their team, they're looking at this. They're knowing that this person's energy is down naturally in this cycle of in their biocycle. Recognizing that, planning it, and supporting them when they need support is critical to prolonging uh, career career of the individual and to help everybody grow.
That was certainly a very crucial point to discuss that you did. Flexibility is definitely the key. And what about stress management programs? How can they be effectively implemented in the workplace? What is your take on that?
So stress management stress management programs come in different flavors,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to know the chemistry of your group to know what kind of stress management programs are going to be effective.
Absolutely.
While and in the meantime, while knowing that, you have to be open to trying out some other stuff just to see if it works and to learn what's working better or what doesn't work. So don't be afraid to try things that might be a little bit sounding weird to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like for a lot of people, what I said, when you have female employees, you have to understand their cycle. For a lot of men, that's a totally foreign concept to even think about that or say that out loud, right?
Exactly. I'm aware of that.
I know you're aware of that, dear. And probably later you're going to say, "How did I bring that up in public?" Right? But you're sweet. Thank you. So knowing this and knowing that you're going to learn some stuff out there and it's going to work for one group and may not work for you doesn't mean you shouldn't try it, right? Try that, see what works, rotate through different things, and find the chemistry of your group. For example, the group exactly with you. I know
Mhm.
most of you guys are into physical fitness. Your younger group, you have a certain need for a particular kind of socialization, say around cafes, around fitness, around sporting activities, right? This is like
Exactly.
the stage that your group is in. I have another group where they're a little bit older. They are more into kind of like the family activities. They're more into the swimming and the target practice to blowing things up, right? With shooting,
Understand.
right?
Yeah.
And so they have this kind of method for relieving stress and to bond and to go out and to get a break from the grind. Now, it doesn't mean that you guys wouldn't benefit from going to a firing range or going to a pool or a beach to play in the sand and to make sandcastles, right? But it's a different group and different chemistry. And, when you got somebody like me, three boys, take me to the beach, let my kids wear themselves out, right? And I'm going to have so much fun just by seeing my kids do stupid stuff, and we can laugh about it together. My friends, their kids are doing stupid stuff, right? This is kind of like that group here. So know the group and what's going to work for them, and realize it's going to change as that particular group grows, as they become more diverse, or as they become less diverse and more centralized, right? Because it can go both ways. Sometimes the diversity in a group changes, and that's cool. Sometimes it becomes more focused, and that's also okay, right? There's different ways to appreciate diversity inside a group, and it doesn't mean that you separate more. It sometimes means that you bond closer. And being mindful of that and mindful of your personal current status, and being able to open up about it is really important. But it's hard to do. It's one of the hardest things to do. This sharing of yourself between your immediate group, very hard to do, and sometimes you have to practice doing that.
Exactly, you're absolutely right about that. Plus, foster a supportive environment. That is something that we should be doing as well. as we should cultivate a workplace culture that prioritizes mental health, that just as you said. And those were really great insights. How should companies address workplace burnout, which is becoming increasingly common here?
Okay, so addressing workplace burnouts is just something you have to expect, right?
Mhm.
If
Right.
maybe not every group, right? Some groups are very laid back, they're very chill, but you know who you are, right? You're the exception if you're this group. If you're with us, right, in our group, burnout is expected, right? You're going to work hard, you're going to give it your heart, and you just long enough, this is going to burn you out, right?
Exactly.
So we recognize that this is a plan factor. It's part of high responsibility. It's part of a drive of a group of people that are looking to do better always, and to do the best for the people in their environment. So when you have this kind of culture, you also have to be aware of it, and you have to plan in a multifaceted approach to handling this as it starts coming up and try to catch it early. And sometimes you just have to let it take its path, right? Sometimes you just have to work. And also knowing that and recognizing that, hey, I see you're working, I see you're burning both ends of the candle, and acknowledging that is the first step to helping support those, and making sure that you recognize the early signs of decreased productivity, and when the burnout starts to become hampering in the professional and the personal life.
Absolutely.
Yes. So there's lots of ways. Maybe it's balancing workloads. Maybe it's getting them additional resources. Maybe it's making sure they're eating well, right? And not letting them, spend a month on ramen noodles, right? Maybe it's promoting a culture that says, hey, while we accept that there's going to be some burnouts, that's not the goal. Our objective is not to burn out, right? Not every project to have you burn out, but recognize that it's a real thing, and calling it out for what it is, and supporting the people that are experiencing it. Some people work that way, right? You have to know the guys that you have. It's their personal culture, their chemistry that says
Yeah.
they work to hit the wall. They know it. They then come back and relax once they meet their goals. They're just these guys normally extremely goal driven. You have other guys that are more balanced, right? They are kind of like more zen, more meditative. You're not going to see the highs or lows at them. They're just consistent. Like, this is how I go. I'm like the tortoise that's going to win the race, right?
Exactly.
And promoting the culture where that's acceptable, but you have that understanding of where's the line, right? If you're that tortoise, yeah, sometimes you actually do got to step it up, right? Know that situation when to call for that, but know your limits on that. If you're that guy that's that rabbit that's just burning himself out, know that too, and uh, be open enough to say, hey, I'm getting there, or I think I've passed that, right? How do I re-energize?
Yeah.
That's having the resources around you, like game rooms, relaxation spaces, healthy food,
Definitely.
just walking challenges, right? Just make it part of the culture that you're also part of the goal is also health. Helps kind of
Exactly.
alleviate some of this overwhelm, that's the negatives that come from overwhelm.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. It does definitely help us in a lot of ways, in physical health as well, and along with the mental health too. It's definitely a very complex issue. What about promoting physical health for mental health well-being, and how do the two connect for you?
It's for me, this is the yin and yang of personal wellness. You
Mm,
can't be 100% focused on your mental efforts, and you couldn't just be 100% focused on your physical efforts. Having a lack of one or the other sets you off balance and leads to breakdown to emotional, spiritual problems to lack of
Exactly.
productivity, which I
Yeah.
hate, right? I'm be like, I'm a capitalist, right? So I want to get every bit of work out of you guys, and I know you guys want to get every bit of work that you can, so that we can achieve things, you can get rewarded, right? And we can celebrate that hard work. But it can't come at the sacrifice of the other side of the coin. And by recognizing in yourself when is a good time in your natural biology to do the creative mental work, and when is a good time to do the physical work is really important. For me, I like to do a lot of my creative work and the stuff I have to get done in my workday done right away. And I like to do my workouts later on when I'm a bit mentally tired, but I've achieved my work that's going to be distracting me when I try to do a workout or a walk or to try to meditate. Because I'm driven, I can't sit down in the morning and meditate knowing that I am procrastinating, and that's how I feel about it. Procrastinating a lot of work that I should be doing at that moment. But once gotten that work out of the way, or at least a big chunk of it, I can say, "Cool, I've done what I have to. Now I can focus a little bit on this. I'm balanced enough where this is my biorhythm time to work out. Mental work in the morning, physical work, fitness, games, sports in the afternoon. And I don't like to eat in the morning. I like to have my lunch and an early dinner, and that's it, right? I like to have a shorter window. I also, while I love carbs, I always feel like with pasta, I feel like I
Yeah.
ate a brick,
Yeah.
right? And it's so tasty, but that darn brick is sitting there. I find when I eat meats, even fatty meats, right? I love my fatty barbecue, and salads and things with low carbs,
Yeah.
right? But high fiber, uh, easy to digest things that I feel like I have a lot more energy. So this is me, right? Now I know guys that are like, yeah, I'll eat pasta, then I'll go hop on the bike and he looks like Jimmy the Cricket, right? That's his biology. That's great. But know yourself
Yeah.
and don't judge yourself on anybody else. So
Absolutely.
there's things that we can do to help encourage that, right? And I think it's up to the managers and to the company owners and stakeholders to really provide that environment. A bowl of fruit, and dare say even vegetables, right? Having healthy options there for people to snack on, having gym memberships, being open that, hey, if you're experiencing a financial problem, right, or medical problem, or your uncle or your aunt or mother is in the hospital, come to me first, right?
Yeah,
Before
absolutely.
you have to go to anybody for help, come to me, right? This kind of relationship, while it's possible to be abused, is much more likely, especially if your employees are from like the kind of like the more intelligent and sophisticated group of people that are have higher values. It's going to be appreciated, and it's going to help relieve their stress in life. That if something is needed, the organization is there to back them up.
Exactly. You're absolutely right about it. And there is something else that we should do as well. That being in an organization, we should be providing them with some regular breaks as well, because it's a human body. We all need it. And open communication and mental health awareness are also crucial. How can companies foster this?
So I think it starts with, like you said, just having an expectation that everything starts with open communication and involves creating environments where employees feel safe to discuss their mental health without fear of being made fun of or retribution,
Exactly.
right? I like to approach things with some humor, right? And it should go both ways. Uh, I Today, for example, Dill had a hard time with the lives not connecting, right? And we're back and forth making some jokes, right? And it's like, yeah, he's going to be stressed out, and
Yeah.
both him and I are going to be in the safe place, like little 2-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
And it's just starts with some humor to let people know that they can open up. Now, maybe if you're not good at humor, maybe it's just, hey, I expect that if you have a challenge, you'll come to me, right? Whatever it is that's your style, you need to own it, present it, stand by it, and speak. Got to be part of your personal culture and your personal brand. That there's value to this, and just that letting people know that there's value to it, and showing that it has value by not shutting people down, by avoiding sarcasm at the wrong time, which is something I struggle with.
Exactly.
He's right. And by making it so that it's known that it's not going to be a retribution or they're not going to be made a fun of later, and that it's okay to be a human and to have weaknesses. Even sometimes I'll share my stories of where I struggled and not try to take a person's thunder, right? But to there's a concept of shared reciprocity. So there's a balance of having somebody give you feedback, so they feel like they've been heard, and sharing something of yourself. And if you're not good at that naturally, there's a simple rule of 2 or 3 to 1, right? So
Exactly.
let a person share 2 or 3 items of themselves and share one of yourself. It keeps the conversation going. It's a good role to allow you to open up and to share something of yourself without the other person feeling like they're in an interview or that you can't relate. And there's a balance to it. If you've read Never Split the Difference on tactical empathy, it's a good book on learning how to apply tactical empathy. While it sounds terrible, it's a great concept. How to listen, how to mirror and help people feel heard, and exercises on that awareness of hearing somebody out, mirroring, responding in a way that's productive without making it about you, right? Which is something that a lot of us try to do to help because we care, but it doesn't. It's not received well because sometimes it shouldn't be about you, right? It's really got to be about the person that's in pain and suffering, so that we can
Absolutely.
help them get past that. But some of that just comes and relating to them in some ways. So don't be for those that are managers. Don't be afraid. Don't feel like you got to be the Superman, right?
Yeah,
The original
absolutely.
Superman is like the most boring character in all of Marvel because he's too powerful, right? In his weakness, he becomes interesting, and
Exactly. That's
in
where
his
the part begins. Yeah.
yeah, it begins of he becomes interesting as when he's a person when he recognize when you see him in love and in pain.
Yeah.
So it's we're all that same. So having ownership and taking extreme ownership of personal growth is part of the culture that's going to help this flow. And extreme ownership isn't about not having weaknesses. It's about um, it's hard to describe. There's a great book on extreme ownership. I'd encourage everybody to read it, and it comes from having that drive to succeed, to fail, to get up, and to support each other. That's going to create a better organization, and it's just because you're taking the extreme ownership of your objectives and your goals and your health, right? It doesn't exclude that you're also have weaknesses and you need support, right?
Yeah.
So part of that drive is all about working as a team and goes back to supporting each other, realizing there's everybody has their weaknesses, vulnerabilities, and strengths, and playing off of each other. And just a lot of encouragement goes a long way.
Definitely, you are definitely telling these things in a very good manner. Utilizing technology for mental health support is another innovative approach. Can you elaborate on this a bit?
So this is kind of fun. We in our agency do a lot of wellness apps. We do a lot of medical apps, and
Yeah.
by the nature of that, we're exposed to a lot of meditations, a lot of mindfulness,
Mhm.
a lot of tools that are designed to help people with exactly these challenges. So in some way, it's fun to have these meditation apps and to have these tools that people would have to pay for that we're helping build and in testing and benefiting from. One app, for example, that we're working on, it's called Euphoria. It's a meditation app, and the owner is an amazing woman. V, if you ever meet her, I'm talking to the crowd, right? If you ever meet her, you'll love her. She has such a heart for helping people that she's created this meditation wellness app that works with AI and a bunch of tools to make life easier to target what's going to help you, right? So there's so many tools out there and so many technologies that I'd encourage any company to look into those to see how they can get those for their employees and to see how they can be used in your own life. And I would just see what's out there and look at the culture that is right beside you, right? Don't think like, how can I help my entire company? Like if you're working for Walmart, right? You don't want to say, okay, well, I mean, maybe you do, right? I don't know. It's kind of above my scale, but I can't imagine if I was Walmart, I'd say, yeah, I'm going to do this one app and this one program, and I know it's going to work for the whole organization, right? I cannot imagine. But if I'm just like a agency and I'm looking at one of my teams that focus on like these 4 or 5 or 8 guys that are focusing on this skill, right? This is a team and they have a culture between themselves. I'm going to say, what's going to help these guys specifically, right? And I'm going to look for specifics to them. Okay. And that's going to do 2 things. One, it's going to help give targeted solutions that's going to help them in their place in life and the way they work together. And it's also going to show them that it is important to me. And I'm not looking for a magic wand to just pass off something that says I care, right? It's I do care. So when you really care, it shows. And it comes down to the individual level. And there's no way to pretend that.
You're absolutely right about that we do not have to pretend about it. It does show. And that definitely is a great point. Finally, how can companies measure and evaluate the effectiveness of their mental health initiatives?
So it starts with measuring the impact of your initiatives and things like surveys. And some of those might be surveys by the employee, right? If we're talking at that level, or it could be the supervisor doing his own surveys, writing his observations and looking for changes, right? So a lot of the times we can't, when a person's in pain, a lot of us close down and we don't share that, right? We feel personally manly and like all that, kind of macho. I'm not going to say toxic masculinity because there is a balance of.
That's definitely the right word for that. We build right? Our walls high up there.
We build our fortresses. So we rely on those, and we have to rely on those who know us and love us to be kind of watching that and willing to approach us. There's simple analytics that you can look at, like turnover rates, productivity levels. You can look for any change in their regular pattern. Are they drinking more coffee? Are they not drinking coffee? Are they starting to drink alcohol during lunch? Are they gaining weight? Are they not smiling? Are they not getting into jokes, right? Yeah. Or can I get them into the gym? Or are they just sitting there like, right? Are they not being committed? Is their sarcasm got a little too dark lately? Or just, are they even talking about challenges in their life that they weren't before, right? Are they trying to ask for help? And are we not paying attention, right? I can't say that never happened to me. And unfortunately it has, right? And I've been blessed that it's never gone really bad, right? But it could. So watch out for that.
Yeah, absolutely. That is something that we should all take care of. We should be taking care of our surroundings. If somebody needs our help, we should be providing them with that uh, in any sort. Thank you so much, Philip, for sharing such valuable insights with us today. Before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts for our audience?
Yeah. So I see there's a bunch of questions. Um,
Yes.
so before I give my final thoughts,
Yeah, we should jump on to the questions ourselves.
yeah, let's do that, and then I'll summarize, and maybe I'll have better final thoughts after I see some of the questions. Let's see. Okay, so there's a question on how do you handle situations where an employee is resistant to seeking help or participating in mental health programs? And this is natural because I don't know who's worse, right? We think that men are worse, but maybe women are worse at this, right? Especially in the workforce where they feel like they have to present perfectly, right? So it's sometimes you lead by example, right? And if they still aren't kind of getting on the program, right, then you emphasize that it's important. And if they still don't do this, iterate the values of the company that this is important, and you've warned them that this is part of what's expected here. Now, this should be part of the hiring process, should be part of your culture, that you're either like intense or you're casual, but this is important, right? And it's expected. And if you can't get on that page, you may not be really part of this group. And if you're not part of the group, you're making it uncomfortable for other people, might have to let you go. And you may have to let the person go, right? I hate to say that, but if the person, after trying to, you're trying to work with them, they're causing problems in the company, right? Assuming they're causing problems, then you may have to let them go. But before you get to that point, try other options. Ask them to volunteer and to participate in creating solutions that make sense to them. Have them give their feedback and then hold them accountable to that. And if they can't give feedback, right, and if they won't commit to that, they may not be a good fit for the culture. It's sad if you found it out too late, but it's better that you found out before there are problems or before you feel personally responsible for somebody of hurting themselves or seeing the decline of somebody that you care about.
That is absolutely right.
Okay. What metrics or indicators do you use to measure the success of mental health initiatives at LineProDev? I leave this to the individual managers of groups. So when I'm looking at this, and I discuss this with my team leaders, and by team leaders, I'm talking about guys that have 15 to 30 people under them. Now, nobody directly has that many people under them. It's hard to manage more than 7 or 8, right?
Yeah.
But there's groups that, there's leaders that have, 10, 15, 30, maybe 40 people under them based off the architecture. And there's regular communications that I have with them, and I know how they are working with them. And we talk about the challenges. And my biggest metric is if there is no problem, right? When I have leaders that that aren't aware of any issues inside their group of 15 to 30 people, I know they're not looking. Right? If I'm not hearing here, this guy had a problem with his mother. She was sick in the hospital. I gave him an early payment and said, "Hey, give me a call in 3 days." Right? If I'm not hearing stories like that, then I know that they're not listening. And so it's not that I have a strict KPI, but it's the natural inclination that it's important because I'm talking about it. I'm looking for I'm looking for indicators of problems, and I expect my leaders to be looking for indicators of problems and to be communicating, right? So it's really that's what it is for me, because every group is going to be so different. I don't believe in KPIs. Now, there's going to be obvious things that stand out, like people not showing up to work, or too many people sick and there's not a pandemic, or it's not flu season and there's sickness, and or we start missing targets, right? Probably the biggest thing that you can, so here's an indicator, and if you see it, it's gone too far. If productivity is more than 10% below what is expected, you probably have a problem, and you need to see, is it the health, mental health, physical health of that group? Is it the part of the planning, right? Is it my fault, right? So look into that, right? And sometimes you might be the problem, right? Sometimes I am the problem, right? I'm a human, and sometimes my guys even say, Phil, you look like crap, go home. We'll share the message with the rest of the teams that, Phil needs to get the heck out of Dodge for a few hours, right? You got to have that love back and forth. So Taj, I hope that answered the question.
You did. That's a good manner. Yeah.
Thank you. Can you discuss the impact of mental health stigma in the workplace and ways to combat it? It's a bigger stigma for older white guys and older black guys than it is for younger people, right? I think different cultures handle it and see it different. Asians have one particular way to approach it and to deal with it, and I think this is a benefit and a problem with diversity. If you have massive diversity inside a team and cultures that they don't understand each other, it becomes very hard to recognize this and to address it. So it has to be part of your culture, and it has to be part of your training in the beginning, so that it then becomes an acceptable part of life, that it's not a stigma. It's okay to have feelings in this, and to approach it like it's part of humanity. Sometimes if you have this existing culture and they have a strong stigma against it, right, which is possible, right, that you have this, we are achievers, we are the top performers, and there is no such thing as a weakness, and emotions are a crutch, right? If you're not joking about those things, right, and you really believe that, education is a good way to do it. Provide some counseling, right? And the counseling should be targeted towards recognition of big problems, right? Of neurodivergence. Sometimes medical checkups are a beautiful thing to have, to make sure that the hormone levels are good, that the people are healthy, all the blood indicators, because when you have a mental challenge, it always shows physically somewhere, right? They go together. You can't separate it. So if you're wanting to get over that stigma, show physical proof of how it's affecting your performance. And this is, even for the toughest, badassest, most stubborn old man like me, evidence is a real thing, right? So sometimes you have to hit us in the head with that, hey, this is reality, right? Yeah, I see maybe you have a stigma about it. You're not going to get me through that by having me talk to a psychologist. You're going to get me through that by showing me proof that it's a problem. It's affecting the clients. It's affecting the employees. And it's not healthy for the long run, and there's direct consequences, right? This is a reality that's going to affect me. Look at what my particular culture is, right? Yeah. And try to address that. That's why I go back and say, if it's Asians, they have one way of doing it. A group of white guys has another way of doing it. My black friends, they have another way of doing it, right? They all have different cultures, and you got to dig into that to see what it is.
Yeah, there's a variety.
Sometimes you have to talk to people's families. Yeah. That's fun, always. No, it's usually it should be pleasant, right? But when there's problems, it can be really challenging. So
Mhm.
that's it's not an easy one, Zane. It's not an easy one. But look at how you can talk to that person in their language. That's going to, sometimes you need a little hammer of love, right?
Yeah, it makes us
Um,
connect with them well.
yes. Yeah, it does. And it does. And it helps you understand each other and become more productive. How can companies support mental health of employees who are dealing with personal crisis outside of work? This goes back to the yin yang of personal work life balance.
Yeah,
You can't have one without the other, right? If the person is 100% into work, maybe they're avoiding personal things in their life. It's not a great long term thing. There's burnout issues. So I think it starts with open communication and
hmm,
observing what's going on in a person's life, looking for changes in patterns, and recognizing that we all have changing life situations and being supportive. Sometimes you have to say, "Hey, have you gone to a checkup?" Right? Hey, look, you look amazing. Phil. Guys say this to me sometimes. Phil, you look amazing, but I see you're coughing blood, and I know you haven't slept for like 3 days.
hmm,
Right? Do something. Talk to everybody in their language, and um, don't let it be thing that you're shy about, right? If you care
hmm,
about somebody, you
yeah,
will call it out, right? You maybe not do it in public, right? Maybe you keep it private. I recommend keeping it private.
exactly.
The and um, if a person can't kind of accept certain things, uh, they need to be brought into maybe education, maybe letting them know that it's important, letting them know that it's part of the culture, and if their personal life is affecting their work, then they have to know
Mhm.
that it's going to be consequences if they can't get that on track. So things that companies can do to do this directly. Preventive measures are huge, right? Have that bowl of fruit, that healthy food, have that open culture there that we acknowledge that personal health is important, that private life is important. Be listening, right? The biggest thing you can do that's so easily overlooked is when somebody
It's a good
says,
listener.
"Hey, yeah, like I'm getting divorced, for example," right? It's like, dang, man, okay, how can we support you, right? How can the company help you out? What do you need from us at this time, right? And maybe they just need, you know, maybe they need you to change their schedule so that they can watch the kids or something like that, right? It's so much better to be listening to these to help support them in a way that's going to help keep them part of the company than it is to ignore it and hope it goes away. It's not as often as we wish that things in order to go away.
That is absolutely right. It's going to be very helpful if it goes both ways, like that.
Yep. Yeah, it's helpful. The next question is a good one. Just in line with this, are there any specific mental health resources or apps that I recommend for employees to use on their own time? I mentioned Euphoria today.
Yeah, you did.
That's one. It's a meditation app. I think it's a great app. There's various fitness apps out there, and I couldn't say which one at the moment is best. I think that it's good to occasionally hire like a health instructor or professional for people to evaluate their body types, to evaluate their current health condition, and have a professional recommend some things specifically for them. And sometimes the company can help buy those or pay for those subscriptions, or at least just help acknowledge that it's important and be supportive of it. The Those are kind of like ask, right? One of the best things that I do, I found, is I ask a lot of questions, because while I think I
Mhm.
know everything, I find that I learn a lot more by listening to and interviewing 5, 10, 20 specialists or professionals on a topic, and seeing what's working So this goes down to the individual. Talk to them, see what they think is going to be helpful, evaluate that with them, and you'll be surprised how much you learn. It does take some time, but I think the effort is really worth it.
And what was the name of that app again? Euphoria, I guess you said.
Yeah, Euphoria. It's U, the number four, or R like Romeo, I like India, A like Alpha.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see. Can you share? Can you share an example of a mental health initiative that has had significant impact on the team at Lion? Maybe. Oh, well, this is a long question. Maybe maintaining that you didn't involve yoga goats in the office. um, Yoga goats. That's funny. Uh, Gosh. So one of the things that I like to do inside the team is try to find activities that help break the ice and to build bonds. I have never found an activity that's better than this, and it's going to be so controversial. Taking the group, taking the team, and going to a firing range, or taking a BB gun and shooting targets. It sounds stupid, but it's such a team building thing that almost every time I've done it, it's worked. We've had great stories. It's always funny when the girl in the group shoots better than all the guys, right? And everybody's like, yeah, cheering for each other, right? I would avoid alcohol. I'd avoid things that would conflict with the culture of the group. I totally avoid strip clubs. If it's something that the person's wife would be uncomfortable with, or mother, then no, right? It should be they go home and they tell their family about it, and the family is either like, okay, that's foo-foo stuff, you young guys do that, or that sounds good, right? That's how it should be done. Generally, that's what I get is, hey, the guys go home, guys and girls, right? But the guys go home, they tell their wife or their parents about it, and the parents are like, you know what? That's the way it should be. This is a healthy place to work for. You better not get fired. Right? And if you're getting that kind of response, then you're doing things pretty well. So yoga is interesting, right? Yoga, I don't do a lot of yoga because I think it falls on the edge of a spiritual activity
All right.
that's conflicting with some religion. So I don't do too much, but I think, martial arts, I think, I'm not poo-pooing yoga. If you love it, if it's your thing, great. If martial arts is your thing, great.
Anything that
Sometimes
meditation would be great, I guess.
yeah, learning to meditate. I think that everybody should learn to do a mindful meditations where they're aware of how they're feeling, of their personal well-being, right? I think this is a personal growth factor that should be taught in high school, right? So I realize it's not, and it's something that I talk about occasionally with some of the higher level guys, where we talk about this, and it tends to come up at times where they like, I was so frustrated today, or I think I overreacted, or I did this, right? And they're trying to look for that permission that was an overreaction. What should have done, right? Look for those times, and to see how you can, especially the older guys like me, right, to help foster and support and grow the younger generations. One of the things I do, right, and it's terrible, is that I train everybody under me to replace me. And as soon as they're ready for that, they get to, right? If they want my job, they can have it, right? But there's a path to get there, right? So it goes through personal development, it goes through growth, it goes through skill building, all these things to give you confidence in yourself and the ability to recognize when things are going good or bad.
That's great. You really do that.
Yeah, I'm a pain in the butt. Um, this is, love makes you do crazy stuff.
It does.
Uh, how can small businesses with limited resources implement effective mental health initiatives without breaking the bank? It doesn't have to be expensive, right? If you think it is, then you're probably going about it in an unproductive way. So
Okay.
one of the things is sit down by yourself, take a little bit of quiet time, and look where the weak points are. Is it that your team is always overloaded on work and burnout is killing it? Is it you're looking at the guys and they all have 15, 30 pounds too much, and you're encouraging pizza and unhealthy food, right? And sometimes you have to chase that, why is this, right? What do I think? How am I contributing to this? What habits am I supporting? And sometimes just a matter of shifting your own mindset to help,
Yeah.
and that doesn't cost anything, right? So it starts with, like I think Madonna says, it starts with you, right? And it it evolves into higher things. And here's the cool part about it: as you get better with the little things, you're going to be increasing the performance and the productivity of your company and your team, and you're going to be able to afford nicer solutions, better solutions, gyms, programs, right? It comes hand in hand, and it's something you want to just pay attention to, right? Say, okay, look, I started doing this, and our productivity, I noticed it started going up. We started having less sick calls, right? And I realized just by kind of giving an hour of my time a week to focus on this with a couple of my guys that needed some obvious help, that it really brought the entire company up. And it does. You help the weakest link in your company, that it rises everybody's level. It rises everybody's mood. If you have a guy, and one of the other things, sometimes if you can't help somebody adjust to be more motivated, to be healthier, to be part of the team, sometimes it helps to cut them, even if it means that everybody has to work more to make up for that work that they were
That they
dragging
were.
the whole boat down on. So I hate to say that, but those are things that don't cost any money, maybe cause some stress in the beginning, but will eventually get you to better places.
Absolutely, you were completely right about that.
Thank you, dear. Let's see. What metrics or indicators do you use to measure the success of mental health initiatives? Okay, I think is there a happiness index, or do we just count smiles? What a good question, Masad. Good question. Um, I don't. Do I count smiles? I use it as an initial. I use it as an instinctual thing. The people around me laughing a bit, right? Are they having fun, or are they frowned most of the time, right? Like, it's an intuition thing for me. As far as a happiness index, I think that when you become mentally aware of it, and this is why I say the exercise of mindfulness is the meditation of self-awareness is so important, because it's going to get you out of yourself a little bit, looking at people's cues, and just by looking at that and being open to that, you're going to recognize, is the happiness in my organization higher or lower than it was last week or last month? And sometimes it's a matter of your workload cycle.
Yeah.
So, and we already talked about women's cycle, right? So that's a monthly thing. We have to be aware of that, right? That's different, right? What I'm talking about is if you're doing like one project for a year, that's going to affect your happiness at certain points based off of seeing where things are and managing expectations. But as far as normal cycles, we can say, hey, last week, how's everybody feeling? What was the mood in the office, right? And that's, you can just put a number to that, like 1 to 5. Mostly it was like 4, right? Now I don't think we need to shoot for like a 5 happiness at the office, right? There's a certain point, if you make happiness your goal, then you're kind of missing something. Happiness is, I think happiness is BS, right? Because we as humans, happiness might be affected by outside things, but joy is from the inside. I can control the joy that I have in my life, right? But my boss can maybe control the happiness that I feel at that moment by giving me a cake or give me a bonus or give me a hug and saying I did something really great, right? But I think it's more about, at an individual level, about appreciating joy, having a spiritual basis, and focusing on your health and personal development that helps give this happiness index. So I wouldn't look for happiness. I would look at joy, and I try to judge the general mood. Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? It's like a 4 out of 5. Like, that's good, right? Don't strive to entertain your employees, right? Look at how to support them, to make sure that it's a healthy environment, and to enable them to have joy in their lives. Sometimes
Providing safer space and stuff, yeah.
Yep.
And joy the word.
Exactly. Safe spaces, maybe gaming boards, maybe ways for them to just break the tension, right?
Exactly.
And those are little things, right? And, on the higher end, you can have once a quarter or once a month meetups where you kind of make light, do skits, have some fun, be creative, bring the families involved, right? Have that family barbecue at the office where the family is welcome to bring their kids and everybody breaks bread together. These are little things that can affect the joy index, and with a good good amount of joy in your life, it helps the happiness, I think. All right. Okay. Are there any specific mental health resources or apps you recommend? Already talked about that one.
Euphoria.
Bonus points if they don't involve endless meditation chants. How can companies support the mental health of employees who are dealing with personal crises outside of work? And no sending fruit baskets isn't always the solution. Okay. What's wrong with fruit baskets? I mean, come on. Noman, good question. I always felt, and I might be wrong, guys in the audience can push back on this. When you're listening to your employees, when you're talking with them, and every manager should be communicating probably daily, right, with their guys. There's some water cooler chat, there's lunch chat, there's times when you're breaking bread with them, right? And you should be communicating with them so in a way that it's normal that they come to you if there's real problems in their life. And if they're in a crisis, sometimes you need to, at least, this is why it's hard for a leader to handle more than 8 guys, actually. It goes back to that metric of it's at too many scales, you start ignoring people, right? A person can't keep that much in his mind. So as long as you have proper leadership distribution, then you're going to recognize when people are going into crisis. And if you find out after the fact that there's, George had a crisis, his wife had a car accident, and nobody ever told you, right? And it's, he came into work late. He came to work late the next day and started becoming depressed, right? You should have known that, right? That's on you, manager, for not knowing your guys well enough and not having that open line of communication where he should have come back and said, like, he should have got off the phone and said, boss, Phil, my wife just had a car accident. I know we have a deadline. Is there something we can do? Right? And I don't know if the right answer for me in this case is say, dude, just go home. Right? Or what? Right? But, maybe we're under priority. Right? And my first question is going to be, is she okay? Okay. If no, like she's in the hospital, there's nothing I'm going to get out of Joe that day. Right? I'm like, Joe, go. Right? Cool. But, that's a choice. But you got to have that choice, that communication in the first place. So I think it's all about, comes back to communication. Okay. And I answered all of the Instagram live ones. Who is there? Awesome. Where, let's see. Are we live on YouTube also?
Yes, we are live on YouTube as well.
Let me see. Guys, forgive me, right? I am not really amazing when it comes to this. Can you guys send me the link for the YouTube questions?
Okay.
Sorry, guys, starting to lose my voice.
It's fine.
All right, good job, guys. Thank you. Okay.
All right. The first question from Umair Mahmood we got: what role does company culture play in supporting mental health, and how can it be cultivated?
That's a good question. I think what happens is you have to decide if it's part of your culture in the first place, right? I would say it should be, but maybe it's not for some reason, right? But if it is important to your culture, and if it's, you rely on human capital to in your business, then define what it means to you and why it's important. So, and make it real, right? If it's not important to you, say we don't care, right? You know, this is how it is. This is, you know, how we perform business, fine. But if it is, make it part of your culture, add those values, define them, and evolve them as it goes, right? Learn from it. A lot of companies will spend 2-3 months refining this, finding a better way to, first of all, state that it's important to them, because words matter, right? And words that you repeat are understood to matter. If you don't repeat them, then you don't have a culture, you don't have values, you're not sharing them. So people can't rely on that. It's one thing to say it once that we care about people and we are a people company, but if you don't back it up by taking the efforts, and if you don't back it up by repeating it, then the proof is in the pudding. So the role that the culture has in defining it is that if you don't define it, then there is no role, right? If the value of defining it is that people have that expectation and that you can improve on it and you can gauge how it's being effective or not. But it all starts with defining that role, what it is, and evolving it. I don't think any company starts off perfect, specifically because I can't go buy a book and say this book will help any company. It's going to be something that you have to apply to that particular team and that particular company's mission and the way it works to make sure to make it fit and to evolve it. It takes time. I don't think you can do it overnight. Next question by Zane.
And that is on YouTube. What are some creative ways to encourage employees to take mental health days without them feeling like they're playing hooky?
That's a good question. There's two facts to that. One is sometimes you need a spontaneous mental health day, right? Yeah. Another way to look at mental health days are vacation days. And another way to look at it is having those organization days where we appreciate our employees, where we buy lunch for them, and we organize some fun, and we say, "Hey, the work you've done is great. Now let's have a little breather. Let's change the tempo. Today's priority is to celebrate the families and to celebrate you, the employees, and to celebrate myself, right? Because I did all the work myself too, right? No, but we got to love on each other, and it's all in the culture that you define this in. So when I'm looking at it, the big things: have a space for guys, but have a space that they can go to when they need, right? This is the zero level, right? It's not even making them go for their mental health break, but it's saying, hey, it's important enough for us to have a space, right?
Yeah.
The next thing is, wow, your wife just had a crash. I'll see you later. Like, pack your stuff or I will. Right? It's comes with a judging how important it is for that person to finish what they're working on. If they go home to take care of their wife in this exact case, right? The wife got into a minor fender bender, didn't get hurt, but is in the hospital just making sure. Then you may say, okay, look, dude, go. And if he pushes back and say, if I don't finish this, I'm going to not be able to breathe, and I know myself, I'm going to be angry with my wife, right? If that's the case, say, okay, I'll get you some resources. You can take the computer and go, or finish it, or I will send somebody to check on your wife, or I will go check on your wife.
All right.
Right?
Yeah.
If it's that, and when he sees that you're that serious about it, right, he may say, okay, I'll take a half an hour. I'll come back. Okay, cool. We'll make sure you can stay late if you feel like it. Take the day off. This is a hard thing. So the question was a really good one. How do you kind of force this mental health retreat, this mental day? I think it goes on a case-by-case situation. And think, this isn't fair, but this is how I look at it. If it was my son in this situation, or my wife or my mother in this situation, what would I want? What would I want for them, right? And when you go about it this way, I think you find the solution easy. It goes back to having that open communication, that culture, the right fit, and a little bit of I am blanking out because I can't think of a nice way to say this. Right? So just care, and you'll find the balance. You'll find the balance. And sometimes, a lot of times, this is modeled from the top down, right? So if you're the manager and your boss has never cared for anybody and been personable, or said, hey, I found out somebody was in an accident, go take care of it, right? If that's not part of the culture, and you're the first manager that's trying to bring that in, that can be super hard to do. Have that discussion with the upline ahead of time, so that you can understand the value of it, if it does have value. And if it doesn't, maybe find a new place to work.
Yeah, you're super right about it. And how can we make mental health workshops more engaging? Maybe replace the PowerPoint slides with puppy therapy sessions.
I like to ask my team, what would they like to see, right? And at the first couple times of asking questions like this, you get terrible answers. They're going to be like, Phil, I really wish you wouldn't ask me this question in the first place, right? And then you start peeling away the onion, and you start coming up with solutions, right? Sometimes it should be a PowerPoint presentation, right? In the very beginning, it's like, hey, here's some facts of why this is important, right? Here's how it affects productivity. These are facts. PowerPoint is great for facts. At a certain point, PowerPoint is not great. Well, PowerPoint is good for memes too, right? So you can put some jokes on PowerPoint, right? But it's not really good for making a connection, a human connection.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is about making that human connection so that we can maximize our performance and maximize the profitability of the resources we have. When I look at this, I don't consider it a foo-foo thing that we care for each other. I consider this a combat multiplier where we are taking care of our needs. We're not going to have mental breakdowns. We're going to handle high levels of stress more efficiently, and we're going to be more creative and productive, right? It's that productivity because I'm a capitalist and I love it.
All right, that was great. And what's your take on using humor in workplace to elevate stress? Is laughing really the best medicine, or should we stick to traditional methods?
No alcohol. Alcohol. Get everybody trashed. No, I'm kidding. I already said don't bring alcohol into the
Yeah, you did.
right. Okay, so I do like sarcasm. I do like humor. There's times they don't work, right? And just be considerate of that. I think all of us kind of know when we went too far. And when you catch yourself applying humor poorly or sarcasm poorly, I think it's good to just stop immediately, apologize once, right? And the apology is simple, but acknowledge it. I'm sorry that I just said this incredibly rude thing. I wish I didn't say it. And I'm going to try to be more mindful that I won't say something like this again. If you feel like it, I won't approach you, but you can come to me in my office or I'll take you out for a coffee. Just let me know. We can talk about it, make it cool. Don't apologize twice for stuff that you've done wrong that is just kind of awkward. Sometimes a person just needs time to breathe, right? And over apologizing doesn't do anything but rub salt on a wound, right?
Exactly.
And it doesn't mean anything if you don't change, right? So repentance is something God gave us to change our lives, but it's not repentance if you don't change direction, right? So learn from it. Yeah, we're going to make the same mistake over and over, but hopefully make it a little bit different every time and get a little closer to our perfection. And as far as should you use humor or sarcasm in the first place, I think always humor is good. I try not to do more than 25% humor because then you're just getting carried away and entertaining yourself. And I try to not talk. When I'm doing meetings, I try not to talk, you wouldn't believe it, but more than 13% of the time is about how much I like to talk.
Yeah, we all get it. It comes to a point when we all want to do the same thing. And do you have any, before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts for our audience?
Oh, wow. So, guys, great questions in there. I think we summarized a lot of things. I would like to emphasize that mental health, it's a collective responsibility. So it's not just about the supervisors or the board saying these are the resources we're going to do. It's about also the employees knowing it's part of the culture and having the bravery and the permission to speak up when they need to have the environment in place to evolve this in ways that actually help them. And sometimes we have to start with providing a resource and then find that resource is beneficial. Sometimes we have to step back, change direction, learn, and it's a path of continuous innovation. Just like the rest of our industry, guys, you're always going to learn, you're going to get feedback, and you're going to innovate to increase your productivity, to increase the joy and happiness inside your organization, and just know that it's not easy in the beginning. It does get easier, and to be brave, and also to show me that you guys love this one, please like and subscribe.
Well, Philip, it was such a nice topic to talk about. And thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. And thank you to our audience for joining us. If you found this session valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to our LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook channels for more insightful sessions from Line Product. Until next time, stay safe and secure.
Much love, guys. Thank you, Rahima.
Thank you.